Well, good day, everybody, and welcome back. Today is the 1st of December, 2025. It's Monday, and I think it's about, I looked, 2:30 or 2:35 or so in the afternoon. And today, being the 1st of December, I guess that's the first day when I believe Donald Trump's sanctions against India start taking effect. And Putin is slated to go to India. It's supposed to be a very, very big meeting with Modi, and I guess that's going to be on the 4th and the 5th of December. And you can bet that there's going to be a lot of talk maybe about the sanctions. He's probably going to talk about the, what is this fright that Donald Trump apparently put into Modi. At least Modi is supposed to be, according to Donald Trump, is supposed to be complying to these sanctions and not buying any Russian oil or maybe not any Russian products. I don't know if Donald Trump had yet put into effect this ban on everybody. I think maybe everybody on Earth is not allowed to buy anything from Russia, petroleum products or anything. Or maybe that was just some kind of a, should I say wet dream or some kind of a dream. As you all know, Donald Trump has a dream, at least how I try to mention it here, and Donald Trump downplays it. A lot of people also talk about it, that Donald Trump, he has a dream of defeating Russia, bringing Russia to its knees, wanting to be the first leader in world history to bring Russia to its knees. But the only other time really that you could say that Russia maybe was defeated was back with Vladimir Lenin in whatever year that was, in 1917 or around that, when Lenin was sent to Russia and he started his Bolshevik Revolution, the Russian Revolution. Yeah, that was in 2017. And I guess soon after that, Lenin took Russia out of the war. And that was all about, let me move this a little. And that was all about, bringing communism supposedly into Russia. And Lenin was actually a German agent, of course. And he lived in Zurich, Switzerland before that. I've talked about this before, but maybe sometimes I don't make it really clear on how that happened. And so they got a hold of Lenin, who was part Russian. I think he was German, Russian, and I guess he was a mix of different nationalities. And a lot of people say he actually hated Russians. So he, anyway, was sent to Russia, and he took Russia out of the war for Germany. And so Germany can concentrate more on the Western side. And, anyway, he was an agent. He was an agent of Germany. And they sent him there in a sealed train car. All the windows were all blacked out. And I don't know if it was armor plated or whatever. And nobody was allowed to look in. And yeah, so it was quite an operation. And he destabilized Russia. And, that was a time with Tsar Nicholas II and Rasputin and all that sort of stuff. And then they took the royal family, and eventually they killed them all, apparently. There's been some rumors, so-and-so wasn't killed, Alexei, which is a son, and or maybe Anastasia, the daughter. And if you remember, it was Rasputin. He was retained. I guess he was he was a monk, but he was sort of a dirty guy, and in a lot of ways, I think. And he had some sort of ability with Tsar Nicholas's son, and that's one reason why they kept him on. And who was actually, I don't really know what they call it, a hemophiliac. I guess what he had a bleeding problem. If he started bleeding, he would just keep on bleeding. It was very hard to stop it. But anyway, he somehow was able to appease the son of the Tsar. So that's the main reason they kept him on. And he was famous with all the ladies for some odd reason. Makes you really wonder. I don't really know what the truth of all that is, but the women liked him, even if he was I guess kind of a smelly and dirty guy, and like I said, dirty in different ways. Anyway, that's how the legend goes anyhow. That's just other information. It's not anything I was planning on talking about. But anyway, let's talk about these sanctions here. And Modi is supposed to also be getting Su-57s. I don't think any country has ever gotten any Russian Su-57 Sukhoi fighter jets, multi-role fighter jets. And I thought I read something also where India is also going to be involved in building Su-57s and maybe even get access to the plans on how to build Su-57s. And I believe that is supposed to be looked at as some sort of an incentive where Modi will continue cooperating with Russia, and they've always got along for a long period of time. They're longtime allies, India and Russia. So I think Putin and India are probably going to continue being friends. And obviously, you all know that India is one of the BRICS countries, and it's not been made a secret by Donald Trump that he wants to collapse the BRICS countries. And then he came out and said, oh, they're going to start their own currency, which I guess has never been said. But of course, they're trying to move away from the dollar because the United States has very clearly weaponized the dollar and, the SWIFT system and everything. So if you don't do, and Donald Trump is obviously one that's going to be trying to use this to the maximum. If you don't do what the United States tells you to do, then the dollar and all financial instruments will be working against you. So I guess that's a big incentive for countries to use their own currencies, and I guess they called that a basket of currencies. They called it in the past, and I think like 90 some odd % of transactions between Russia and China are in their currencies, and I'm not sure about India. I'm sure a lot of it is also done in I guess rupees and rubles. So we'll see. I don't think Donald Trump's sanctions are going to actually work. And I think Donald Trump knows that. But maybe Russia is trying to play it safe. And I think some people are saying, well, that was one reason why they're supposed to be having these negotiations, peace negotiations that will not be peace negotiations. Russia's not going to turn back on their requirements for some sort of a peace. And I think they stated a lot of these at the very beginning. And I think they said denazification, but that's never going to happen. Demilitarization, that possibly could. And then Kiev, everything that Russia is trying to get from these negotiations, Kiev wants the opposite. They want a massive military. They want 800,000. And of course, Zelensky took on that because the Europeans are pushing him. And remember, the Europeans have absolutely nothing to lose. That's why they're pushing Zelensky. They could have said 1 million. They could have said 2 million troops. And then, of course, they said, oh, NATO entry and European Union, which I think Putin still is not against. And there's other things. And the Donbass is retained by Ukraine, all kinds of fantasy things. So, yes, let's see. Anyway, I think the Su-57, as I was saying, that's probably the most advanced multi-role fighter jet in the world. And I would not put the F-35 in that category. It doesn't seem like it ever fully works, the F-35. And it's been years and years and many billions of dollars in the works, and it's not really working. And a lot of countries act like they want it. A lot of people are still brainwashed into thinking anything from the United States is going to be better than anything from Russia. And it looks like on the battlefield, that's the opposite is actually proving true. But you're not supposed to know that. Maybe, otherwise the United States will lose a lot of business, I suppose. But, yeah. Anyway, there was a note I was going to talk about. It's Marjorie Taylor Greene. I saw a post yesterday that said Marjorie Taylor Greene was talking about the threats against her life. And apparently these are not like leftists. These are mostly diehard Trump supporters. Apparently. You never know. There's all kinds of weird players. And for who knows what other reasons. Maybe it was supposed to scare Marjorie Taylor Greene out of politics. It makes you wonder, why is Donald Trump so aggressive against her? She still stood up for a lot of the things that he was standing for, but I think it turns out that she was not really corruptible. And I don't really think that even Tulsi Gabbard is, but I think we don't hear very much from Tulsi Gabbard. And I think she stood for a lot of the same things that Marjorie Taylor Greene has been standing for lately. no regime change wars and Epstein file release and things like that. And but it's a little bit different. I always was thinking that if Tulsi Gabbard, if she steps out and starts stating her principles and insisting on at least an attempt to move towards those principles, she would be gone. And maybe Donald Trump knows, and maybe she has supported those principles to Donald Trump's face, and that is one reason why we don't hear that much about her. But it might look very bad if they got rid of her. So I don't think she's gone. You just don't hear about her anymore. But some of the things that was happening to Marjorie Taylor Greene, and apparently I saw some post about this, and it was, I think it wasn't AI, that I think it was somebody else saying, and there was like maybe somebody at least stating that they were going to use a pipe bomb against her, and there were fake pizza deliveries. I think she actually said that she was getting deliveries of pizza when she never ordered a pizza, and obviously she probably never answered the door. So whatever came of that, I really don't know. And I don't know if she gets any kind of security at all. I don't know. Certain people probably do. Some low-life or low-level people, not low-lives. But she's not going to get it, apparently, especially not from Donald Trump. So, and I was actually saying that she's probably resigning mostly because of these threats. And it's one of the main reasons. And of course, another thing she put out is that it's impossible to change Washington. It is so corrupt and it is so far gone that you cannot change it. And it's just gone. And I think she's absolutely right. Donald Trump was supposed to drain the swamp, but he's turned out that he's joined the swamp. I guess he's swimming in there. He probably skinny dipped and he took everything off. He's swimming in the swamp as well. We saw that with what's going on with Epstein. But, he comes and yells out a few things, to make sure that at least he's getting some support and that he's not totally betrayed his own promises, his election promises. So that's... I think she was also saying that, I think it's in her words, Marjorie Taylor Greene, is that the government is broke, can't be fixed, impossible to fix. And I was even asking myself, I wonder what is more corrupt? Is it Ukraine or is it Washington, D.C.? And you've heard from Ron Paul in the past and a lot of other people shaking their heads and saying how corrupt it is in Washington. It's unbelievable corrupt. You hear about like these drug parties and sex parties and all sorts of things. And I've seen because I was involved in like getting hotel accommodations for congressmen and senators and heads of state, as well as transporting them and all. But I never, well, maybe because maybe it wasn't my job, I never heard of any sort of a sexual things or not even drugs, really. I remember John McCain when he came, and he came on Air Force One. That was back in the Reagan days. Or maybe it was George Bush the first days, I believe. Yeah, George Bush the first. And he had us loading on cases of beer, lots of German beer. That was in Frankfurt, so we had to drive to Frankfurt, and that's where on Rhein-Main Air Base, U.S. Air Base, and we had to load. I mean, that guy, more than anybody, matter of fact, I don't even think we ever did for anybody doing this. And actually, I think that is kind of like corruption. I don't know if he paid out of his pocket, no matter what. But anyway, it's going on to Air Force One, loading the thing up with cases of German beer. So that was something. And I don't think we ever had to do anything like that for anybody else. The normal thing. But I guess that's part of protocols, taking them to restaurants, and things like that. And like I said, I sat next to Ronald Reagan during a dinner that was at a farmhouse. I might have mentioned that already in videos, but that was kind of interesting. I didn't talk to him. I wasn't interested in politics at all back in those days anyway. And the place was in such an area that there was really no... and it had fields all around it. There was no way that anybody's going to stage some kind of attack to get him. And of course, they evaded some protocols on some certain rules to make sure that his car and other security, could go in places where other cars can't go. So it was not a bad deal. I didn't get to drive him at that time. I drove Jack Kemp, quite a bit. I liked Jack Kemp a lot, so I've mentioned I liked him. And, other people like the President of the United States Senate, and who was that? I think it was Strom Thurmond back in those days. And anyway, you compare this corruption in Ukraine and the corruption in the United States, and then you compare it to Ursula von der Leyen, and I just tried to, which one is more corrupt? I wonder. And they're all corrupt, maybe in their own ways, And I have no experience with Ursula von der Leyen, of course. I only just saw things in the U.S. government, but like I said, I didn't see all of the normal things that Zelensky's into. I'll talk a lot about corruption. It seems to be the big theme anyway. Yeah. And what about Moldova? You got to look at Moldova. And Moldova is helped out, of course, big time by Ursula von der Leyen, cheating on the elections and things really, really big, and blocking the highways to keep huge portions of people from voting. And the vote cheating was beyond anything you could ever imagine. Far more than even Joe Biden's deal back in, what year was that? Was that 2020 or something? So, yeah, it was really big. And what about the corruption against, it's also the European Union, against the Republic of Georgia, which used to be a corrupt country, as you know, under Saakashvili, another Yale graduate, like a lot of these, George Bush II and so many people. But that was then, and this is now, and it's a different government. I don't know, it's totally amazing that they've cast off a lot of that corruption in the Republic of Georgia, and yet they have to fight it. It's very much like Serbia or Slovakia, and again, like I said, just Georgia, and actually a little bit of all countries, getting these onslaughts from the European Union, and it doesn't make you wonder, actually. I was thinking, where do they get all this money? But they steal the money, obviously. All these countries have to pay a lot of money to the European Union, and obviously that's where some of that money goes, and it doesn't even, it's millions, it's not like billions, to throw these elections and to encourage, and whatever they're doing in Moldova and things. So it's like millions, and they were doing that, of course, in Belarus. I don't know. I used to know, and I can't remember how many millions they put into trying to overthrow the government of Belarus. And that was also in 2020, by the way. And then it was also here, when I was here, and they wanted to assassinate, that was back in, was it 2022? There was plans to assassinate President Lukashenko here. And I was living here at that time, but they caught those people, and some of them were former military, and that was found out by Russian intelligence, and they have audio recordings of it. So it's not like they can get out. I think they were saying, "Oh, we were joking around." Yeah. Mm-hmm. So is that something you sit around in a cafe and joke around, is assassinating a president and his whole family? Yeah, it's just joking around. Yeah, but anyway, you can imagine the fight that these people have to do in these other countries trying to fend off all the wolves from the European Union. And it is absolutely incredible. And then when they overthrow these governments and they say, well, you see, these people all hate Russia. They are all proud members of the Hate Russia Club. And that just proves how bad Russia is, because all of us can't be wrong. Yeah. It's that being right by consensus, I suppose, when it's not really consensus. Wow. So that's corruption, as you all know. It's still the same thing. And it's all these Western elites, and they get nervous. They get nervous anyway lately, especially while Ukraine is losing. So they think that that's going to be the end of them. It's like that it's the end of NATO. And I'm thinking, well, how does that equate to being the end of NATO? Because NATO lost a major battle. And it's not like anybody in NATO got shot or anything like that. So how is it the end of NATO? Maybe they think their credibility is going to be gone, because everybody knows candidly that it's all NATO behind all of this. and the United States. Donald Trump at least was smart enough and said, I'm going to kind of get out of here. I want to be a winner. I only want to be on the winning side. So I'm going to act like I have nothing to do with this. Joe Biden's war. It's Joe Biden's war. I'm the one that gave them all the lethal weapons. I started doing that. Obama gave them blankets. I gave them javelins. But it's not my war. It's not my war. It's, we have such a short collective memory as people that watching these politicians and Donald Trump. It's just like Epstein, who he thinks that at the very minute when he just states something that whoosh, it's like the Men in Black, like you forget everything. Jedi mind things. I say that in my other videos, that he can just make everybody's minds blank out and believe something completely the opposite of what he's been trying to put into everybody's minds at one time or another. And it's like, there's a lot of people that do fall for that. It kind of makes you think, are we really, as a collective, are we pretty stupid? Are we stupid people? It's incredible. Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah. Oh, let me say something too. I was just looking at myself here and I'm thinking, damn, I kind of am acting a little bit like, I even have the hat on, like Gonzalo Lira. And I talked about Gonzalo Lira in my video yesterday. And when I think I put the title, I said The Return of Gonzalo Lira or something like that. What I was meaning is this lady who's, I don't know if that's her name on the channel, so I should have said her channel. But I put the link yesterday down below from this video, and you guys can see what her handle is, and I hope some of you look at that. And she's talking about the Ukrainian corruption in that. And, a nice lady in Ukraine, and she's in Kharkiv. That's where Gonzalo Lira was. And, Gonzalo Lira, a lot of people, I think it was even Scott Ritter was saying, well, if he is, on the side of truth and against Ukraine, then how come he doesn't leave, because he's talking bad about Ukraine and, and I think that might have been at the time when they went after Gonzalo Lira and they took him in and Scott Ritter, who I like very much, of course, but there's sometimes a lot of us can be wrong. And he was believing that Gonzalo Lira was an asset of the SBU, the Ukrainian Secret Service, but he stayed in Ukraine because he was going through a custody battle for, if I'm even forgetting, was it his son, I believe. So if he left, he wouldn't see his son anymore. And I think he didn't have a great job. I can remember. He was like, I'm thinking he was working in a restaurant, but I'm not even positive anymore. He gave me some information, but like I said, we were just at the beginning of making friends. He contacted me. I don't even know how he found out. I suppose, I don't know. But no, he was a decent guy, and I liked Gonzalo Lira. I never met him personally. You can really never know a person until you've been around them, maybe in a stressful situation or at least for long periods of time. So, but he seemed all right to me. So I saw a good side of him. That's all I'd want to say. But anyway, just like I said, this lady that's making some of these videos, so she takes a little bit of courage, I guess, to be saying those things because Ukraine does not like any bad publicity at all. And a lot of journalists have lost their lives because of that. So just hopefully she stays safe. That's all I want to say. Okay. But I guess for Trump, and even for a lot of the rich political elite, because a lot of them, they work together, whether Democrat or Republican, and if Marjorie Taylor Greene is exposing a lot of things that a lot of them don't want anybody to know about, of course, for them it pays to somehow have her politically eliminated. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to knock her off, but maybe she saw the writing on the wall and didn't want to continue. And I think she's even made it clear that it's a big rat race. She used to be a lot different politically, and I guess she's changed from the very beginning when she started supporting Donald Trump. And she turned out to be better, and I think a lot of people were more and more appreciating her. So it's very sad that we don't see her so much anymore in politics. That's how that goes. And Massey, of course, Thomas Massey. And maybe even Rand Paul. Oh no, the cat might be coming after me. Vasa again. It's the only cat we kind of let run around a lot in here because he's more gentle and he's calm. Oh, here he is. Oh, yeah. Decided to get up, didn't you, huh? You heard me talking? You heard me talking? You want to show your face again? Teddy bear cat? Here, look at, see? Look at that. You don't even know that there's people out there looking at you, Garfield boy. Yeah, so what do you think? Do you want to go sit somewhere? You should go back to sleep, I think. Don't you think you want to go to sleep again somewhere? Okay, here. Okay. Where was I let? He likes to wag his tail, by the way, if you see his tail. Oh, Ben, do you notice that he snores and he purrs? He purrs really loud, but I didn't hear him purring. Well, he might have purred yesterday, but how did you know he snores? He snores a lot, don't you, boy? Or maybe you know that kind of cat with a kind of a shorter nose. Oh, come on, don't come over here. Oh, and he likes to rub on things, and sometimes he never leaves you alone. Do ya? Here, keep petting you. Yeah. So, I am... wanted to also say that Donald Trump is certainly involved in corruption. You ever heard that word before? I mean, it's the big word nowadays, what's going on everywhere. And if anything, killing people in a boat that you either do or don't suspect are running drugs, using extrajudicial judicial punishment with no trial and just killing them and saying that they're running drugs when I never saw a trial. I don't know, how do they know who's driving these boats? Do they have CIA at the docks? I mean, how do they know that? I mean, this is absolutely, oh yeah, he is purring now. The CIA at the docks and making sure that everybody that gets in there, and I think maybe even remember the assassination when Ukraine assassinated Darya Dugina. I thought I heard that was actually Alexander Dugin's car and she was driving it. So maybe they were trying to kill him. I'm not positive or not. I haven't heard anything about that since, and maybe that was misinformation. I have not the faintest idea. It's been a while. I have to look at earlier reports back then. So it's possible somebody else could be riding in a boat, and those boats are not going to the United States. They're definitely not big enough. If you've been, I've been on the Caribbean Sea before, and those boats, and the way that is, they're not even going to go to Puerto Rico. They're not going to go anywhere close to Puerto Rico. As a matter of fact, they're probably, what is the name of that, starts with an M, that island that belongs to Venezuela? It's not, I don't know, I forgot the name of it, but that's probably where they were going. And if they had drugs or not, I don't know. A lot of them obviously did not. Maybe some. I think some of them did. I think they do. Maybe some people are saying that they're all fishing boats. I don't think they're all fishing boats. But I don't know. They used to run drugs from the island that I lived on to the next island. But you can see it. You can look over and you can see that island. So, and most of these boats, maybe even those small boats, but I doubt it. I think they're too far away from, actually I was, the place that a lot of these Venezuelans, even though I don't know if I doubt very, very much it'd be very gutsy to take those boats all the way to St. Vincent and the Grenadines from Venezuela. And if you look on a map, it looks close, but it's not that close. And but a lot of them were smuggling fuel. It's like diesel fuel and all. And when you see these huge explosions that Donald Trump's bombs do, I can almost bet you that some of those ones just had fuel on board, because you can get cheap fuel from Venezuela. They're a very big oil-producing country, and they can sell it to other countries, a lot of these fishermen, when they buy it at a very cheap price, and they can sell it and they can make a profit. And the hotels that use this fuel, like for generators or whatever, they get a very good deal too. And that's normally what it was. I don't know if there was that much drug smuggling. There certainly was drug smuggling, but I think it was very small amounts to certain people. Oh, can you get me this or that? And normally it's not so much going on in Venezuela. But so I think this is it's a big sham. I mean, since I lived down there, and you heard a lot about marijuana. And of course, they grew it on St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and these people were well armed. And most of those people were from Barbados, the ones with the machine guns. And before that time, I'm thinking, when did it stop? 2011. I don't think they did it it wasn't even, I think, 2000. It stopped even earlier than that. The United States used to come in November, and like I said, with helicopters, and they used to burn the marijuana fields. And it wasn't to stop the war on drugs. It was because the marijuana from St. Vincent was better quality than the marijuana that the CIA and all were growing in South America. And they were, that's, like I tell you guys a lot of times, I call it it's like the Tanya Harding, Nancy Kerrigan effect. Remember, if you can't beat your competition, you get an iron bar and you slam it into the shins of your competition and take them out of the competition so that you'll be the clear winner, by sabotaging the other guy. That's I got that from two, remember, women that were competing for the Olympics back in the old days, I think. And Tanya Harding commissioned somebody to, she was from Oregon, unfortunately, to slam an iron bar into the leg of Nancy Kerrigan to take her out of the competition so that she can be chosen for the Olympics. Apparently that's what that was about. And that's how the United States operates. I guess that's the American way nowadays. It's not to actually compete in what you're actually doing. I guess the American way is to take out your competition. Sounds kind of, do you think Donald Trump is doing that anywhere? with bricks? It's incredible. So, yeah, but now where was I? Anyway, let's see. Talking about Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump did a lot of other things. Soleimani, too bad thus far it has to do with killing. And of course, Obama liked to kill people too. He liked to kill with drones, remember? He liked killing children playing soccer and bombing weddings and killing the bride and the groom and all their guests, and then making jokes about it at dinner parties or at the golf course. At least Donald Trump is not making jokes about it. He acts like they were guilty people. I don't know. Don't it make you proud as sheet to be Americans? I don't know. So I was going to mention something I don't know that I kind of mentioned it many times, but it was like, I try to say, well, Putin always talks about, we have to get rid of the root causes of the Ukraine conflict. And then I start to think, well, what are the root causes? Well, actually, it's very easy. The root cause is Nazism, of course. Without Nazism, they would not be doing what they're doing right now. So that is the root cause. But these people are indoctrinated in Ukraine for a long, long, long time, for virtually when they go to school, at least. Our father is Bandera, and he loved to kill lots of Belarusians mostly, and some Polish people and Jews and anybody that are inferior races or whatever. So anyway, that's what I call the root cause, and it's very similar to, God's chosen people in Israel, getting rid of the cockroaches, the Palestinians, or Arabic peoples altogether, or the Goy, all of the Goy. Christians, Muslims, anyway, Hindus, all of them. Kill them all! Anyway. Israel does extrajudicial killings. Obviously, some people are putting it up to over 300,000. What they killed in Palestine, the majority of them, of course, are children. They're guilty. They're guilty of being born. Nothing to make jokes about, really, though. But Donald Trump, he's killed with those extrajudicial killings. I guess he made 21 strikes, and I think it's 83 people. It's listed as 83 people. That's what the listing says, but I don't know if it's been more of that. And actually, the country that I lived in, they had a U.S. Coast Guard base there, and that was the most furthest south U.S. military in all of the Caribbean islands. And that was, I used to live on that island, but by the time they put the Coast Guard base, I was actually living on the main island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and growing coffee, as I said. and dental technician and all that. Had my own business there, 2 businesses, and but I guess they were launching drones from there, and I guess it was surveillance drones against Venezuela. So, who was the president at that time? Maybe it was Obama. Obama loved drones too. You know. Everybody loves drones. Oh, by the way, they say, and I was always telling you, and that Ukraine was definitely the big king of the military drones, and of course now they're acknowledging that's true. But I said that because I saw that information quite a few times, and I reported that on my channel. Nobody else was saying that. But finally, I guess Russia has now overtaken Ukraine in military drone warfare. So they are doing better, and maybe, I don't know if they have more. I think they might have more, but because Russia has been destroying a lot of these factories, a big major factory, as you remember, some weeks ago in Kiev, and I think there was one in some other place, and there was actually a couple of them in the Donbass, but they had even chemical weapons factories, very small ones, which were rooms maybe about the size of this one that I'm sitting in, where they were mixing up a lot of chemicals, the components they got from the United States, and they were using drones to drop those, and possibly still are, drop them on Russian soldiers. But I don't know, Russia doesn't report that very much, but they have reported it, and so maybe I shouldn't be saying so much about it, but you heard it here. Anyway, CNN said yesterday that Maduro told the United States that he will leave in 18 months because Donald Trump, remember I said, a lot of people said yesterday that Donald Trump was telling Maduro to leave, and so Maduro said 18 months. Maybe that's when his term is up, but Donald Trump said, no, you leave now. So we'll see. Maybe or else. Obviously, you don't have to put the words or else because it's already implied. No, you leave now. Donald Trump, you don't ever have to use those words or else because it's always implied with everything that Donald Trump says. And he's got himself into a position where he almost has to bomb Venezuela at some point in time. And when he bombs Venezuela, it's kind of like catch-22. I wonder how Donald Trump's credibility is going to be, and they can't call him the peace president so much anymore. And of course, it's always an excuse from the United States, no matter who's president, that they're being mean to their women, or they have weapons of mass destruction, or anything, or gassing their own people, or now it's what is it when drugs. They're sending drugs to America on these speedboats that no way in the world could possibly do it. Oh boy. And even if it is, how much fuel do you have to carry? Where are you going to refuel if you don't carry fuel? If you're carrying drugs, that's absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, so maybe none of those are having drugs. That doesn't really make so much sense. But anyway, I guess that sounds like CNN is actually telling the truth now. But Maduro has a big decision, and sure, he can probably get, I would not doubt he can get safety in many places, and I'm sure even Belarus. As a matter of fact, I believe Lukashenko was even talking a lot about Maduro just recently, and I'm sure Maduro knows that he could get safety here in Belarus. I don't know. There's been a rapprochement, I guess, between Donald Trump and Lukashenko, and Lukashenko, released a lot of political prisoners, and Ukrainian ones recently. I guess it was 31, just last week. And if Maduro is allowed to come here, I don't know how that is going to sit with Donald Trump. Supposedly, some sanctions have been lifted off Belavia, which is the government-run airlines here from Belarus, and I read somewhere it was only a certain amount of planes, like maybe 6 to 8 planes, but I'm kind of wondering, I haven't heard of any Belarusian flights going to, for example, Berlin or London. It used to go to London. It was a very, very, very favorite flight to go London, Minsk. Very, very many flights were going that way. And I think I went that way once, did I or didn't I? As a matter of fact, even Bremen. They had from Bremen, Germany, where I lived, to Minsk, but I never took that. And there's a lot of stipulations. Like, for example, I have some silver coins in Germany. Some friends are holding it for me. If I go across the border, Belarus says that there's a good chance that they will seize it. If they don't seize it, maybe Poland or Lithuania will seize the coins or whatever. So it's not really, they would not recommend, they said, we recommend you don't do that. But if you fly into the airport in Minsk, that we will not seize your silver coins. So, but there is no airplanes going right now. So I guess I was too late. And maybe if there is one, but then when you think about it, the cost of me going to Germany and getting the silver coins and flying to Minsk is much more than the value of what the coins are anyway. And silver just went up, I guess. I think it's $57 an ounce, just went up yesterday. So, but 50. And remember, it was staying around 17. I think I bought those, it was 23 or 25 euros per ounce. And now in euros, it's probably 50. So it's like doubled. And the best bet would be gold, of course, because if you do that in Germany and you hold it in Germany, there's no tax on in gold in Germany, but there is on silver. So if you're going to get silver, the best bet is the United States. It's cheaper. So if I were to buy it in Germany right now, and if it says that it's $57 in the United States, that in Germany you would definitely probably be paying maybe high 60s in euros. Maybe 67, 68 euros for 1 ounce of silver. So you're better off if you can get it in the United States. But another question is, if you're going to travel somewhere and carry gold or silver, you never know. They might seize it. And then, I don't know. There's so many stipulations going across borders with, almost anything nowadays. You can't even go with a bottle of water, I think, anymore. At least not in the UK. You can buy it inside. Matter of fact, you can buy, this was a proven fact, you can buy components in like Gatwick or Heathrow Airport that together you can make a bomb. You can buy them in the airport and then you can take them on the plane with you. But you can't enter the airport with those components and you might even get arrested. Very, very strange. Strange how all this stuff works, as you all know. Okay. Anyway, Trump is going to probably do something aggressive as things stand right now. And I don't know if Maduro is going to be defiant. Maduro apparently has already said that he will allow the United States to virtually plunder all of the natural resources of Venezuela. But I guess that Donald Trump does not like that. He wants to get rid of Maduro and probably put in a puppet, a big-time puppet. And it looks like they don't trust Maduro. Too bad. They've already got a no-fly zone, as you all know. That's already, I think, for a few days now, all over Venezuela. And I'm wondering if they're going to do a naval blockade. It's very difficult to try to block anything coming in over land. I'm sure there's some jungles and besides just the roads, but they could probably enforce a naval blockade. So we'll see. And there's that Florida congressman. Her name is Salazar, and she is salivating. She's salivating, and she is so happy, and she is drooling to get that oil in Venezuela. I don't even understand. She's not going to put it, well, maybe she does. Maybe she does get it, put some in her pocket, but she is just ecstatic, and she is going to bed every night as a very happy woman, saying that the United States is going to make hundreds of billions of dollars, and she's really convinced. And Venezuela, make no doubt, is one of the most, it's actually one of the most resource-rich nations on earth, along with Russia. And she's salivating at just getting just the oil and all, but they also have gold, they have everything. You can have tourism. I think, what the United States should do? They should offer statehood. They should offer statehood to Venezuela. Can you imagine that? And you might even think that the Venezuelans would say, hey, that sounds pretty good. Maybe even Maduro. Tell Maduro, hey, you can stay on for 6 months to ease the transition, and Venezuela can become like a Puerto Rico of the United States. I'm sure everybody will be happy. Yeah. But thinking out of the box is a very rare thing. If I said that to the people in Europe, the European politicians, Merz and van der Leyen and stuff, of course they'd dismiss it right out of hand. You know, Elon Musk, that would be a different person. He would basically say, that's not a bad idea. You know, I think for some reason he might really dislike Venezuela. I know Maduro doesn't like Elon Musk very much, and he was, I don't know, calling foul on Elon Musk, believing he had a lot to do with throwing that election, but I don't know if that's true or not. Okay. So today, Witkoff and Kushner, what's Witkoff? What's his first name? Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, which son-in-law of Donald Trump, are flying to Moscow, and I guess the peace talks, if that's what you want to call them, are going to be starting with Russia tomorrow. And of course, it's all going to be outright rejected. By the way, I guess Kiev, for the most part, they rejected all the peace talks too, and all of everything on there. And everybody's trying to brainwash everybody and say that it favors Russia. When it doesn't, it favors Kiev big time. You know, Russia hasn't been very clear on what they stipulate and what they want out of any sort of a peace with Ukraine. And, you know, it's not contained in Donald Trump's peace plan very much, only a little bit, very little. And most of it is on the side of Kiev. But Kiev doesn't want to, they want to actually win the war. They want to, them and all of their buddies, they want it to look like they won the war. It's absolutely incredible. Yeah. Yes, but I don't think this peace is any closer. It's not any closer than it was a year ago or 2 years ago, because the two sides are still very, very far apart. You know, Donald Trump was just saying, what is it, just a couple of weeks ago, we might be very surprised. This is actually maybe something very good is going to happen. He was smiling, and everybody is saying, oh, wow, this is it. This is going to happen. You know, and then Zelensky talked to more and more to all of his buddies in Europe that have nothing to do. They have nothing to lose for, you know, a total, they probably think they don't have anything to lose in a nuclear war. So they're going to push every single sort of aggressive measures as they possibly can, because they can keep the graft going, they can keep the money going up. I just even said that quote yesterday from Kirill Dmitriev, you know, which says basically they want the war to keep going because if that's their big money maker, is to make a lot of money in the war, Zelensky included. So. But Zelensky, I don't know how many billions does this guy have. It's very clear this guy definitely has over 10 billion in US dollars, over 10 billion. And when you're seeing about all of this corruption and how much money was stolen, it's undeniable. And you hear a lot about this corruption of this, at the very minimum, $54 billion was stolen. And they said as far as up to $108 billion. And Larry Johnson was reporting on the 46 or 48 billion that they know of, which isn't much of anything. And then you have so many other things going on. You have the organ trade, the drug trade, the trafficking, child trafficking, and anything else that goes on. And then they have phone scams, and they're very legendary over here. And it's even warnings on the buses and the subways and things, because they call you up and they say they're the government or something and you have to do this and that. And it turns out giving them your information on your passport. And, you know, if they say, oh, no, we can't take your bank account number. No, don't give it out to anybody. But we need all the information on your passport. And a lot of times people can get that. But that doesn't guarantee that they can really rip you off if they have all of that, just that. But there's people that are scamming the scammers. And they talk like they're old ladies and, you know, kind of maybe a little bit out of it, or maybe just not so much aware of the modern world and all of the scams going on. So anyway, they give them some lead up to that they're, and then they say something, and of course the people hang up. They're trying to scam and all that sort of thing. And Ukraine has a lot of those. There are these call centers, and they steal hundreds of millions of dollars from people of Russia and Belarus and even Ukraine as well. So it's a lot of theft. It's a big money business. I'm not saying it's necessarily the government. There might be people in the government and high officials that are also part of this. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it one bit if you understand life in Ukraine and how people grew up there, apparently. And I think a lot of Ukrainians will admit that. I'm not saying all Ukrainians are bad. They're not. But there's a lot of that going on there. And it's, you know, it's a tough life. And I don't know. seems like a lot of Ukrainians might be the best ones to know when there's a scam going or not. And anyway, that's all I'll say about it right now. But I think a couple weeks ago, Donald Trump, of course, he was exposed to, with all of this NABU and SOP, whatever these anti-corruption bureaus, he's being exposed to how badly the United States was fooled. And I kind of get this impression that Donald Trump does not like to be taken for some kind of an idiot or a dummy or a dupe or a fool, or that the United States, even if it wasn't under him, it was under Joe Biden, that so much money was sucked out of the United States by these criminals. So I think he understands that, and so he's pretty pissed off, and that's maybe one reason why he did not include the European Union in any of these peace negotiations, and he's basically starting to put a lot of the pressure on Zelensky more than Putin. Oh, come on, guy. Oh no, come on. And then you arch your back. What are you doing? You're getting bored again, huh? Hey, look, go over there. So what else do we have here? Oh, I talked about Salazar already. And anyway, Trump's been exposed to that, and he knows now that he was lied to by Zelensky personally about the situation on the battlefield. And made, but it looks like the European Union, they probably know that, but that they want to go along with that. They want a part of it. As I told you about Mertz, which is absolutely amazing. The more he hears about the corruption and the money being stolen, he gives them even more money. And it sounds to me, and this is just my opinion, I believe that Friedrich Merz is very, very much involved in getting a lot of this stolen money, even from his own taxpayers. It's absolutely incredible. But, they do it through a proxy of a proxy so that it doesn't really get linked to them. That's how the whole thing is. And Zelensky does that too. And Yermak, of course, was a lot of this. And he had his wife, and like casinos or whatever, has it in his wife's name and other businesses and things like that. Wow. A little bit more about his wife soon. But anyway, the facts on the ground, they don't lie. And Russia is doing very good militarily. And I'm saying, like I said, what's up there, guy? What I'm saying is, with all this encouragement from the European Union and all of his buddies, of course, back then it was Joe Biden. Ukraine could do anything they wanted to do. Luckily, Donald Trump is stepping back. That's going to be good. But, like I said, Zelensky now wants the entire Donbass area. And he also talked to Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, and got a pep talk from him as well. So Zelensky, very obviously, he's a very insecure man, very insecure. So whenever he starts to feel the pressure, he gets on, well, I don't know if it's on the telephone or he gets and starts messaging all of his buddies. And I guess there's a huge list of all of these leaders, and he's contacts all of them. And he's sending all of this stuff for them to prop him up, give me some support. And Rutte was maybe not available, so he got a hold of him yesterday. Anyway, to keep this thing going, to say, give me some confidence. We're so humble, Anyway, Uriah Heep wouldn't be that humble. Uriah Heep would just, he is Uriah Heep. He's a modern day Uriah Heep, of course, but already successful. Uriah Heep got very successful. This isn't David Copperfield, I've mentioned before. He's the character in there, and he acted like he's a humble guy and all that. And in the meantime, he's taking over the firm and stealing lots of money. But anyway, Zelensky wants a dignified peace, but it's not very dignified to lose a war in the first place, So how do you expect? What do you want? Do you want a cake? I don't know. What do you want? A medal? Yeah. And now he's making all these demands like a Christmas list. Oh, I want 8,000 troops. I want to have 8,000 of my own. I want to get some 8,000 from Nato. I want the Donbass. I want Donetsk, and I want Lugansk, and I want all of Zaporozhye, and I want Kherson, and I want Crimea someday, maybe next Christmas. But anyway, you know how it is. So he's wanting a lot of things. And yeah, like I said, all of those things is what he wants. Foreign troops, the right, and he wants to join NATO. He wants to join the European. I mean, in other words, he wants to look like he didn't lose at all. He didn't lose and a lot of the things that were the causes of the war, he wants them all reinstated to, I guess it's to keep it going or to make it start again, and this time with a much bigger advantage, apparently, after they rebuilt the Ukrainian military and they sent in their European troops and they rebuilt their armies, and just to start it all over again. Russia is trying not to do that, but that's what Zelensky claims that's what his goal is, but it's not, obviously not. Why do you need 800? Why do you have to have a military twice as big, more than twice as big as the next biggest military in all of Europe, which is France at 240,000 troops? And Zelensky wants 800,000 troops. So you can take the two biggest militaries, combine them, and Zelensky will still have even more, much more. As a matter of fact, I think you can almost take the two biggest militaries, combine them, and double it, and Zelensky will still have more military. And of course, big pump to the gills from NATO. And Donald Trump will be happy as anything to continue making weapons and, probably a lot of drones. We'll see millions and millions of drones. That's what the future is going to be like. Sky is going to be filled with drones. It's unbelievable. Your future soldiers are mostly all going to be drone soldiers. And I think in Russia, at least nearly one out of every 4 is a drone operator. So, and it's very much the same probably in Ukraine. Anyway. But he's got a need to constantly seek assurance from all of his buddies in the Hate Russia Club, trying to get more members in the Hate Russia Club, take over Slovakia, take Moldova, and what was this country that I just mentioned they're trying to take over? Anyway, get as many people in that club as possible so it turns into a mob. But it not only shows that he is very insecure, it also is a great indicator that Ukraine is not an independent country and it is not a sovereign country. It is run by this conglomeration of the 7 dwarfs, Snow White and the 7 dwarfs over there in Europe, and the European Union. Most people so it's not sovereign at all. And they're saying, "Oh, dignified peace. We want to be a sovereign nation." Yeah. Well, right. I'll bet you they'll get a lot more sovereignty if they chose the Russian side. But it's not all about that. It's more about money and about cashing out at the expense of all the peoples, not just the Ukrainian people. Yesterday I mentioned this Kazakhstan pipeline that Ukraine and UK, which normally always is involved, anything in the Black Sea, of course, and even a lot of this that's not in the Black Sea. It's always, very often, any kind of operations inside of Russia is normally has the UK involved. But this was in Novorossiysk, which is a city. It's more like you could call it like a port of Krasnodar. And it turns out that this does have joint ownership with the United States. So in effect, Zelensky and the UK, they bombed even an American infrastructure pipeline. Is from Kazakhstan, mostly Kazakhstan. Russia has some ownership, and the United States as well. So anyway, very good, huh? That's absolutely amazing. Yeah. And corruption in other countries. We saw there was big protests yesterday in Madrid, Sunday. They said 80,000 people, and they want their prime minister to resign. Makes you wonder if that is because a lot of these things are instigated by, CIA operations like USAID and Radio Free Europe and Voice of America and all that. So I don't know. Anyway, Prime Minister Sanchez, they want him to resign based on corruption. So I don't know. Is he corrupt? Possibly not. I don't know. So the top military commander of NATO, his name is Giuseppe Cavo Dragoni, probably Italian, sounds like it to me. He told the Financial Times that NATO is considering a preemptive strike on Russia, saying NATO must get more aggressive with Russia, but they can make this preemptive strike be made out to seem like it's a defensive strike. You know, I guess you can do a lot of things, you know, having, you know, like Israel. Israel, it's self-defense when they bomb the Palestinians. When they bomb a village or something, it's self-defense, always self-defense with the Israelis. And so they got away with it. So maybe NATO believes probably they got as much power and clout as Israel, which they don't, especially not right now with the United States. But they're thinking about starting the war, initiating it, bombing somewhere in Russia. Yeah. Good luck on that one. Donald Trump Jr., he recently mentioned he had a trip to Monaco. And he said that, I don't know, he's probably exaggerating a little bit in different ways, but he said half the cars that he saw were Italian supercars. And Zelensky's wife has a really, I mean, it looks like a rocket. I mean, it looks like an Italian car, really something like you'd never see on the streets at all. Your jaw would drop if you saw that car. I don't know how many cars she has. I don't even know if she drives. Maybe somebody else drives it for her. Or maybe it's just to sell at some point in time for a lot more money. Probably she never drives it. Probably got 20 miles on it, sitting in a garage somewhere. I think it's in Switzerland she has that one. No, Monaco, maybe. I'm not sure where she has it. But she doesn't live in Ukraine anyway. Why would she want to live in some place like that? And Zelensky is rarely ever in Ukraine. Why would she want to be there? But anyway, Donald Trump Jr. mentioned that he said half of the cars that he sees are Italian supercars. Pagani, Ferrari, Bugatti. I can add to that. Remember, it was Diana Panchenko. She was an award-winning journalist from Ukraine, and she put out that the most orders for Rolls-Royce are people in Ukraine. So the Ukrainians buy more Rolls-Royce than any other country. But then Donald Trump Jr. said he's been to Ukraine, and he says that he doesn't believe it. And this is in Monaco. He says half of the cars he sees, these super Italian cars that are half the cars he sees are these super Italian ones, and let me see. He said most all of them are all with Ukrainian license plates. And he said he's been to Ukraine. He knows that they're not so rich, and he was wondering what that's all about. So in other words, obviously, it's all of these. Then there's thousands and thousands of very rich people stealing all of this money. It's the sons, and it's even police chiefs from small towns and stuff. You know, they're getting money for this and that, and they pocket a big percentage. And as this stuff rolls in, they're always taking a certain percent. And normally, I believe it's like from 15. Well, sometimes it's 10. But up 15, and once in a while it's up to 20% that is their cut as this money goes down the line that's coming from primarily the United States. And if Donald Trump Jr. knows about all this stuff, I'm sure that Donald Trump, his father, knows about this. So maybe that's one reason why Donald Trump is turning off the spigot of all of this money that Joe Biden was flooding into Ukraine. And like I said, a lot of these people, Joe Biden would have been one of them. And of course, Merz is another. And Macron, these people love it. And obviously Ursula von der Leyen and Kaja Kallas, once they hear about the corruption and say half of it gets stolen, and they know that half of it is stolen from corruption, well, guess what? They're gonna increase the amount they're sending there, taken from their own people, by 50% to make up for what the loss is from what the rich people are taking. That is their logic, I suppose. It's unbelievable. And that's what even Donald Trump Jr. said. He said he couldn't believe it. So Donald Trump, he put out a tweet yesterday saying, "We've got to get bad people out of our country fast." This is a quote, by the way. "We've got to get bad people out of our country fast. What the Biden administration and the rigged election did to the United States of America must never be forgotten. Make America great again." Thank you for your, no, he didn't say thank you for your attention this time. But what Donald Trump obviously says, it's essentially all correct, of course. I mean, you can't even deny that, or maybe it's basically all, but you got to think about some of the things. Like, who are these bad people? I mean, a lot of time, it's not like everybody from Somalia is a bad people. So, but maybe wants to send them all out. I don't know. That's what I think he says. It's kind of like people I know, they say Jews, like all the Jews, and blacks, that they think all the blacks and all the Jews are this. And it's like, what the crap? You can't even believe that, and it's like, buddy, that sounds a little bit like racism or anti-Semitism a lot, And of course, as we all watch Israel, what the stuff that they're getting away with now, and everybody's trying to make you think that it must be all the Jews of Israel. So if you don't like what Israel does, then you're an anti-Semite, which is not at all, the truth. As a matter of fact, a lot of people, if Israel labels you as something bad, it's actually a mark of distinction. You're actually probably a very, very good person. To be honest with you, I would be totally honored if Israel called me something bad. I would really, seriously, and I really would. I would think, damn, I must be a pretty damn good person if Israel calls me bad. But like I said, there's good people in Israel too. And it might even be as much as maybe 40%. I think the majority are a lot of these Zionist peoples. And you got to think, if it's a whole bunch of Jewish people down there, and a lot of us, I guess, what we're called goy, if we're the ones to get exploited and get money stolen from us and things like, or get ripped off and cheated from and all that, how are they going to do that in Israel when most everybody is a Jew there? So that can't be the case. And, I've met very, very good Jewish people. I've met them, and I've met some bad ones. I told you guys about when I was painting a house. I just painted the trim on some island. I went through that whole story in one of my videos. I won't do it again. Really trying to rip me off. And it's like, oh, anyway, forget about it. You have to watch my other videos if you want to catch it. That wasn't that long ago. So, but I think that Donald his ICE people, they're probably going a little bit overboard at times. And, a lot of time when you see a lot of film footage, they seem to be very courteous and not so bad, most always. And, but, some of these people that they're trying to kick out, and you've heard about some of them, they're very upstanding, not citizens, but people in the country. Maybe they were citizens, came in illegally though. But, which is not any kind of an excuse if somebody comes in legally. And if they're obeying the laws, then I would probably say they have to reapply. They can stay there while they reapply and wait till it gets approved or not and pay the money. I don't know. I believe back in those days it was $200 US. Very expensive compared to like places like in Germany. I think it's like 20 euros. Belarus, I don't know if it was free here anyway, but the United States likes to charge a lot of money for everybody. So if you want to come to the United States, you better pay up, buddy. But it was worse in St. Vincent and the Grenadines because you have to pay. It's gone up much more. It's over 2,000. That's like rubles. That's let me think. How much is that? I don't even want to think while I'm doing a video. Well, it's quite a bit of money, and you have to pay it for a number of years, like 7 years, and keep paying a lot of money just to get residence permit. I don't think it was even citizenship, and you can get citizenship, which I did, by the way, you can apply after 7 years. So it takes actually 8 years to get citizenship in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Unless you have a lot of money, like it's a lot of truth in a lot of countries, like St. Kitts and Nevis. But a lot of it used to be only $30,000 to buy citizenship in a lot of those places back in the old days. I think it costs a lot more now, or you have to invest a lot of money in the country, like that. I remember, in South America at that time, I don't know if it's probably still true, the most corrupt country, and I guess you could buy a citizenship. For any of you out there that want to get a second citizenship, it might be worth looking into Suriname. I believe that is south of Guyana, and Suriname. And I think you can, and I think, I remember hearing, if I'm not mistaken, it was back then even $25,000 when the regular rate in a lot of these countries to buy citizenship then was $30,000, but of course the rate has gone up quite a bit more. And these days, but that's just a little bit of, other information that might interest some of you guys. I don't know how things are now for sure. Anyway, so let's see. But under Biden, of course, it was kind of a free-for-all, everybody coming into the country. I don't know about getting citizenship, but anybody could have come in and something and get benefits. Unless you're a male, a white American male, I think you could get food stamps, but they wouldn't give you any money at all. Unless you're a woman and you had children, or you don't even probably have to have children. If you're a woman, you get some money and some food stamps. If you have children, you get more money. So I guess it's a woman's world. So, but Soros, what is Soros? A lot of people say his goal is to get everybody, shipping all these people in from various cultures into some country and get everybody to fight against each other. And a good maybe guess is that when all of these people, all of us, are fighting against each other, black and white and Somalian and Mexican and American and African and Ukrainians and the Irish, if everybody's fighting against each other, then you won't be having much time to look at the rich people, the ones that are actually, like Soros himself, the ones that are actually leading this whole thing. So, yeah, we won't go after the elites. That's a pretty good plan. It's a pretty good plan. Pay no attention to the men behind the curtain, everybody. Yeah. People fight and kill each other. What about this Afghan guy that killed 2 people? Anyway, there's mass shooters. People, when they get in cars, and that happens in a lot of countries as well, they start mowing over a whole bunch of people. Wow. Yeah, so political and business elites, they can get on with the good plundering when everybody's fighting against each other. High taxes, higher prices, wars, pandemics, all that kind of fun stuff. But don't worry, you don't have to go to work the next day, some of you, because robots are going to be doing your job, and AI, both of them together, that's a double whammy. So, wow. I don't know how many of us are going to be lucky to have a job. I wonder if it's, matter of fact, there was a video, and I think it was in Singapore. I'm pretty sure it was in Singapore, and there's some guy, Asian or Indian type looking guy, I think it was in Singapore. And he's sitting there with his jaw down, and he sees this machine coming, doing his job. This guy was there to pick up, cigarette butts and sweep up this and that and the other thing. And there's some machine coming down the way on the sidewalk and all that, and it's doing his job. And he's like, I was thinking, well, we're all going to have to work as street cleaners, because I didn't think any robot could do that. I'm thinking of the robots that look like humans. I was mentioning, as a matter of fact, yesterday, a robot that works in a factory, and there's one guy and one robot, and it's not a factory, it's in a huge warehouse. It's got levels, all kinds of levels, but the robot is not a robot with some, 2 legs and 2 arms. It's a machine, and it goes from sections to this and that. It doesn't look anything like a human sort of a form thing, but it just goes up, and it has these things, because it's the one that placed all of these goods. And I'll tell you what it is. It was a dental technician supply, Bego Laboratories. If you look it up online, BEGO. And anyway, then this thing goes in, because it's the one that put the products all in these little cubby holes all over the place. So when the guy types it in, which somebody's ordering something, this thing goes all over, and it sticks its little things in and pulls out however many the person ordered. Maybe sticks it on the pallet board, because it has a pallet board right in front of it, and it's on the pallet board, and then it goes to the next item, and it keeps going until it gets the whole order. And the guy's just kicking back, relaxing. There's nobody else working in there. And then this thing goes down to the loading dock, and I'm believing that human beings, you take it off of the pallet, maybe put it on another pallet, depending on how much stuff you order, and then see you later. Thank you, Mr. Robot. Bye-bye. So now Soros can take that and stick it up his foundation. So, yeah, but I don't know. Makes you really scared. Dental technician. I'm a dental technician, and over here they got I guess robots, you call them 3D printers, things like that, that are doing the crowns and stuff. And it's like, oh man, I didn't even want to do it because I don't like breathing the chemicals, because of stuff that I was doing for many years is the resin dentures. I did crown and bridge when I was in Germany, and then some metal frame dentures and things like that. But and with like gold ceramic and but nowadays I don't know. I'm sure there's still labs I could work at that don't have sophisticated stuff, but I don't know. I didn't want to be breathing chemicals. So, what does Elon Musk say? You will own nothing and AI will take your job. But for a while, you can still go into the military. You can go to Ukraine. You can go to Ukraine military. They're recruiting now, I'm hearing. They're going after the people from the Philippines. And no, that was an American firm hiring people from the Philippines to go fight in Ukraine. So, but anyway, you guys can just skip over the middleman and maybe go there yourself. But they were, how much were they getting paid? I think it was $4,000 a day that the Filipinos are getting paid to fight for Ukraine. Whether they get the money or not, I don't know. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, a lot of corruption and all that. And there's going to be robot soldiers too one day. And I guess maybe it's Elon Musk, I believe he's already inventing them. So that might be a good idea. So you don't have to die for Ukraine. They can have the robots die for Ukraine. Can a robot die? I don't know. Danger, 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 Will Robinson, danger. That does not compute. Must sterilize. Oh, that's from Star Trek. Excuse me, not Lost in Space. Okay. But I don't know. Makes you wonder. I still have to work for some years, and I haven't even really started yet. And I don't want to go back to the zoo, because I hate to actually take animals, raise animals that are going to be fed to other animals, like rabbits. A lot of people, they hated to do with the rabbits. I liked rabbits. And I don't know, the people that work there, at least in my group, they hated the rabbits. And then I used to feed the rats and the rabbits and porcupines. I was cleaning the cages of the porcupines. You have to prepare the food for the porcupines, so somebody else was doing that. Then we had, of course, Japanese quail, and this is in our group, and then some strange flying rodents that you never really see because they only come out at night, and I don't know. Other things too. What else? Kind of like gerbil things. I don't know. A lot of little things that are going to be fed to other animals. That's the ones that I was working in that uptiling, and but I liked the bear. There was a great big huge bear, and he and I got along pretty good. I don't know. I was never in the cage with him, and there was actually, they said there was a really huge black panther, and I always thought that was mean, but one of the girls that fed him said that he's really a pussycat, really nice, but I don't know, he looked really mean, and he's kept pacing back and forth. Anyway, and then they had lions and white tigers, and very nice. Minsk Zoo. Check it out. There's a dolphinarium with, I guess, dolphins, and they do shows there and stuff. But I think that's kind of a separate entity. It's not really connected so much with the zoo. And there's buffalo and, peacocks, flamingos, on and on. So, okay, what else? I'm getting to the end here, so bear with me. Did I say they just had an election in Honduras? Then it's there's a candidate that Donald Trump was supporting, and this is going to amaze you, especially after that tweet from Donald Trump talking about the rigged election. But anyway, there was this election in Honduras, and the Donald Trump guy, I guess for some hours, he had like 10% support. And I guess they must have fought hard during that election, because at the end he won with 93% of the vote. I don't know if I mean, it sounds like the elections in Crimea and all that, which probably are legitimate if you want to be part of Ukraine and not. I think that was like 96%. But how could this guy start off at 10% and then all of a sudden finish with 93% of the vote? Now that's pretty good. Pretty good. So anyway, I was going to also mention today even though I had it translated for the most part for me, but I was watching a program. It's on Russian TV or Belarusian TV, or maybe it was from a Russian program, obviously. And it was highlighting people that were able to escape Ukraine, escape from the mobilization. Actually, they were mobilized. Those ones were mobilized. I think all of the people I saw that were on there, and they still somehow escaped. And a lot of times they acted or were able to fake an injury, some of them, and maybe them did have some kind of an injury. I'm not too sure. But anyway, then they somehow were able to leave the hospital, and then they would go through different ways. One guy, he went through a swamp on the border between Belarus and Ukraine and went through an impenetrable swamp. So he basically took his shoes and socks off, and and his pants, I believe, as well, because they kind of showed him. And it's quite a big swampy area, and he just waded through long, so they couldn't follow him. And they use dogs now to try to get people. And then even if they can't get you, they will shoot and kill you. They shoot and kill a lot of people. Anybody that doesn't want to fight anymore, so it's not a very good thing for a lot of these people. But there was one that was on, where did I have this here? She was an Olympic medalist, and I'm not sure if she was a gold medalist for rowing for Ukraine. And they said, oh, she's pretty strong. He's purring over here now. And so they mobilized her, another proud volunteer. And anyway, she didn't actually fight or nothing. They called her at 6 a.m. and said, you come down now. And so then she was mobilized. And I think they told her she was going to be mobilized, and she asked to report. They called her at 6 and come down immediately. So they grabbed her in that way. And but she was able to escape. And I think she said she went on vacation on vacation because she never complained or nothing, never said anything, whatever. And she was able to go on a vacation because she said she needed a break. And she went to the Czech Republic. And then from somehow the Czech Republic, I'm trying to think if I can remember how she got out. I don't know if she went to, I guess somehow she went to Poland. But of course, to get from I guess you can bypass Ukraine. So she went to Poland that way. And then she went from Poland, obviously, into Belarus. And then I guess maybe she went to Russia. I guess she rose for maybe the Olympic team, or at least she's trying to, for Russia now, I'm guessing. So that's one. I just had a couple stories, and some guy, like I said, the guy that got away from the hospital, and they're looking for him, and he's in Russia right now, and I guess they call him now, and they're threatening to come and kill him. He went to some sort of a military training school as well for like officer and all. Yeah, so like I don't know, the guy's got to wonder if they're going to come and knock him off, so they're still going after people that got away and whatever. Okay, and in that same program, they were talking about the luxury life of Zelensky's wife. Wow. That's why I told you about this car, that she's got this really sporty car that you've never seen anywhere. Really incredible. And she lives in London. I guess that's her permanent place right now. It looks like Downing Street or something in the house, but I don't think she's living there. And they mentioned in that thing that the Vogue article, remember she did that Vogue article with Zelensky, those two together, and I guess it cost way over 100,000 euros for the Ukrainian people just for that. So I guess that they took the taxpayers' money to I guess maybe they thought, I think Donald Trump, I don't know if he pays any money, but I'm certainly sure that the American people don't pay the money for when he's on the front page of some magazines. But anyway, it was over 100,000 for Zelensky and his wife to be in that magazine that they took from the Ukrainian people. Well, they're paying a lot of people, Sean Penn and Angelina Jolie and sometimes $1 million, $1 million, like I said, the last time that Angelina Jolie came. Thank you, American taxpayers, compliments of the American taxpayer, $1 million. So, and they showed some of her jewelry, and she had a purse. The purse was a real clincher. It was a purse that had some diamonds in it, over €500,000. That purse, incredible. And then they had matching jewelry. One was a neck piece and one was an arm bracelet, and each one is €175,000. Wow, wow, wow. And her dress, they showed a dress of hers, that she paid €150,000 for that dress. You can't even believe this stuff. Wow. Anyway, but that's all I have today, and it's 1 hour and 25 minutes. I hope that's very long. A lot of people probably won't even click on this because it's way too long, but I hope you like it, and tell all your friends. Oh, I should say, make sure you subscribe and push the like button. Push that like button right now, but if you pushed it already earlier, don't push it again. That's some bad implications if you do that. But anyway, everybody, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.